One of the most common questions that I get from prospects, from clients, from friends, and other entrepreneurs that I work with is, how often should I email my newsletter list? Or, how often should I be sending emails? And there's a ton of information around this. There's a lot of misinformation, but there's actually a very simple way to determine how frequently you should email your list. And we're going to dive into that on today's show. So stay tuned and I'll share it with you. So the first and most important thing to think about as you think through like how often to email your list is to not allow yourself to depersonalize what's going on. And even though it's correct, it's effective, it's accurate to say, I have an email list, that's real. There's nothing wrong with saying that. In your mind, I would encourage you to remember that that list is full of individual people who want to have a relationship with you, because if they opted into your list, if they're still on your list from whenever they were added to your list, they want to hear from you. And if they're opening your messages, then they definitely want to hear from you. And so the simplest thing to do is just to remember that you're emailing to one person. And so I always encourage people to treat everyone on your list like your favorite VIP customer. And with that mindset and that attitude, it's much easier to determine the frequency that you should email your newsletter list. So if you think about your favorite client, or maybe your ideal client that you haven't acquired yet or not working with or partnered with, think about what the frequency you would want to have with communication with them, where you shared updates, you shared some stories, you shared resources, you're doing all the things we've talked about on the show so far this week. Once you determine I think it would be great to email them, once a week or twice a week, or maybe people do give you feedback and they really like getting daily email. That's something simple. You can send a survey to your email list without software. You can say, I'm just curious how often you like receiving information and email from me. I want to add value. I want to serve you. I want to help you. Would you like to hear from me once a week? Reply 1. If you'd like to hear from me, 3 times a week, reply 3. If you'd like to hear from me, every day, write daily. You can just ask your list what they want and you can see what the responses are. So that's one way. But if you don't get a ton of response on that, or you're not sure, just in your mind, think like, okay, if I put myself in my VIP customer shoes, how often would I want to hear from the company that I'm considering working with, or I am working with, or anything like that? And once you determine that, set a goal that you're committed to and you're able to be consistent with. Because if you start sending, daily email and you do it for a week and then you stop, that's just damaging to your relationship with the people on your list. But if you're like, I think that people want to hear from me daily, or maybe 3 times a week, but I don't know if I can do that yet, start with what you can commit to. And I would always encourage folks, ideally, and in most cases, sending at least a weekly email is the minimum baseline. Because if you do every 2 weeks or you do once a month, they're not going to have your brand and your name in their inbox. They're not going to recognize you. They're not going to necessarily know when to expect it, because a month is a long time. And you're not going to get a ton of engagement. So weekly is the minimum for most cases, but it really is about above that. Often that's the case, but more important than that, it's really about asking yourself, if I was in my customer's shoes, what would I want to receive and how often would I want to hear from myself? So once you do that, really think through, what can I commit to and be consistent with, and then stick with that. Because ultimately, maybe you do move to daily email, or maybe you set up some simple segmentation in your email marketing platform, where the people that want to get daily email and everybody else gets a weekly, wrap up email or things like that. But it's so important to establish the foundation and then stick to it, rather than go from zero to hero and think you're just going to do daily email or even 3 or 5 times a week when you don't have that habit established. Daily email can be super effective, but it's definitely not the only factor. Consistency is more important than anything, and being conscious and aware and empathetic to the situation of the customers, the prospects, all the individual people on your list. If you're sending something on a daily basis, then it needs to be valuable if that's what they want to hear. If it's something you're going to do weekly, then make it valuable, make it interesting, make it really serve them. email is such a powerful tool because it allows us to brand ourselves in front of our customers and prospects consistently. It allows us to communicate about how we can help, what our expertise is, what our knowledge is. It lets us share events we have coming up. It lets us share what's going on in our life. And I've been emailing my list for so many years now that when I run into people, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I read your email last week, and like, congrats on that project," or, "I'm glad you enjoyed your vacation," or, "I saw your email the other week and I would like to talk to you about this marketing problem because we really need to grow the business in this area." People will know who you are. And even if they don't reply, if they're opening, if they're clicking, they're actually engaging and they're consuming some or all of your content. And that's definitely the point. So instead of just Googling something and saying, I have to do email in this sequence, make it more about what is going to be appropriate and effective for the people on your list, the individual people. And think about, if everybody on my list was my VIP customer, then how would I want to hear from them, or how would they want to hear from me if I put myself in their shoes? Once you think through that, you can establish a baseline. And again, even if you feel like the folks on your list want to hear from you 3 times or 5 times or, frequently, and you haven't done that yet, start with a level you can commit to and be consistent, whether that's once a week or twice a week, and then incrementally build that up. Because the worst thing you can do is, make this promise, not necessarily, you may not be like overtly making this promise, but making this promise of like, I'm going to email every day, and you email every day for a week or 2 weeks, and then it just drops off. So doing what you can do consistently is level 1. And then level 2 is moving up to the level that you feel best serves your audience and those people on your list. And again, the mindset of thinking through, I'm writing to somebody, that's one of my VIP customers. I'm writing to one person. That makes the conversation easier, and it makes it a lot easier to be creative as you're coming up with the content and sharing valuable how-to information, explanations, resources, entertaining stories, things that are going to help you move forward. So hopefully that helps you have a baseline of how you should, think about how often to email your list. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us at businessmarketingengine.com. We'd be glad to serve you. And I appreciate you taking time to tune in today. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about subject lines. So make sure you're tuned in for that. And I'll share with you exactly how you can get people's attention and get them to open the emails that you send. So we'll see you on tomorrow's episode.